Welcome to another edition of Gen Sports Corner, back at you for 8/28/2021. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the Eagles, the third preseason game against the New York Jets, as well as the Manny Pacquiao Ugas fight and what I thought about it, the fight from last Saturday. So let's get into it. First and foremost, shout out to the Eagles for actually showing up and showing out the second team and the third team players. Some of the things that stood out for me was Joe Flacco. For one, I liked what I saw out of him. He was very accurate. It's looking like Mike Vick out of there. I was yelling, "Go, Mike Vick, go!" when he was scrambling out the pocket. I never knew Joe Flacco had wheels like that. But in all seriousness, he was getting out of the pocket. He was making throws on the run. He had a really good throw to Boston Scott, who took it about 45, 50 yards down the sideline and put the step on number 49. Broke a tackle and put a step on number 49 and made him look very silly and took it to the house. That was a very big play. I liked what I saw most out of Kenny Gainwell, though. Kenny G, that's a name to keep on your radar. Very shifty, great runner, runs with purpose, very much of a slasher to me. He seems to fall forward for extra yardage every time I see him holding the ball. I love what I saw out of him. He needs to be an integral part of this roster. He really does. Right now, you have Miles Sanders, you have Boston Scott, you have Kenny Gainwell, and the fourth on my list, ain't bringing him on. Oh, Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard, he looks rejuvenated, revitalized. So you have four guys that I think should be on the roster. I know that Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders and Boston Scott are here, but you got to find a way to keep Kenny Gainwell on this roster. He is such a Swiss Army knife, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's such a Swiss Army knife. And he reminds me, don't jump on my head on this one. He gives me glimpses of Brian Westbrook instantly. Like when I saw Shady McCoy, I got instant glimpses of Barry Sanders. I'm seeing Kenny Gainwell, I'm getting instant glimpses of a young Brian Westbrook. So keep him on your radar. He's for real. I'm a believer. He made me believe. It's undeniable the talent and skill that I saw on display from him. He made the second and third stringers look like they weren't supposed to be on the field playing against him. He made the second and third stringers on the Jets look like they shouldn't have been on the field playing against him. He looked phenomenal. I loved what I saw. I liked what I saw of Jalen Reagor as well. Good route runs, some good catches, broke a tackle here and there. I liked what I saw out of Jalen Reagor. Yeah, so all in all, a good game three. Would not have liked to have seen the Hail Mary at the end of the game. Could have done without that, but whatever. At least we got out of this preseason with no further injuries. We don't need any more injuries to tight ends. I'm good there. So now we move into the season as we get ready for the run up to opening day. And we'll see where this 53-man roster is at. We'll see what the final cuts are. That being said, there's a big trade today where the Eagles traded for Gardner Minshew. They traded a 6th-round pick that can turn into a 5th-round pick conditionally if Gardner Minshew plays at least 50% of the snaps, i.e. if Jalen Hurts gets hurt, no pun intended. So that was a really good trade. I like what I saw out of Gardner Minshew last year with the Jaguars. He had some up games, had some down games, but overall he was a pretty good quarterback for them. He was 7-13 as a starter, but let's be honest, that team was terrible down in Jacksonville. They were absolutely horrible. And he played pretty well. I know because I followed him on my fantasy football team, and he definitely has a lot of potential as a young quarterback. So his individual numbers are pretty solid. Completion percentage of 62.9% for 37 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. That's hella good, man. That's almost 4 touchdowns to every one pick. 6.9 yards per attempt. And, think about it. He was digging and dunking because they don't really have anything down there, whether it be an offensive line or whether it be weapons. Minshew also had a passer rating of 93.1. Not bad for that team. And he also ran for 497 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, the ugly is that he has an issue holding on to the ball. It says here he has a fumbling issue. He's put the ball on the ground in 18 of his 23 games. You have a suspect line, I get it. However, you got to know that You got to protect the football. 2 hands on the ball. Keep your head on a swivel. You don't have a left tackle. Keep your head on a swivel to the right. If you don't have a right tackle, you just have to be mindful of these things. Even if the talent around you is terrible. I'll tell you this much. Barry Sanders, to my knowledge, he didn't have a fumbling issue, and his offensive line was one of the worst ever. I mean, they just sucked outside of their left tackle. I just can't remember his name, Logan something. They sucked, right? And he found a way to hold on to the ball as a running back. So you need to find a way to hold on to the ball as a quarterback. And you're going to have a significantly better offensive line up here in Philadelphia if you should so happen to get tossed into the game. So make sure that it's a point of emphasis in this lead up to the opening season and on a weekly basis. It has to be a point of emphasis for him. But I love the trade, and this puts Joe Flacco on the clock. He's guaranteed $3.5 million this year, but they wouldn't have made this trade if they did not think that he was the best option for them, and that if they didn't think that Joe Flacco was a liability to a certain extent. Yeah, he had a very good game last night against the backups and whatnot, but while he can be serviceable, he has limitations. So especially when it comes to accuracy, he's been very, very inconsistent with that over the past few years. That's the reason why he was going from Baltimore, and it's the reason why he didn't last too long out in Denver. So I personally love this move. Great trade, and they hit the nail on the head here. I love this trade. So that's what's going on with the Eagles. So that's it for them. Now let's go ahead and move on to boxing. There was a big fight last week. Dennis Ugas versus the Senator Manny Pacquiao, and it was a great fight. I loved the fight, and Manny had to take it on short notice, as did Ugas, so 11 days notice, I believe. So, Earl Spence, he had the injury where he had the torn retina, so he had to get that repaired. And you have to really think to yourself, where did he get that injury? I would assume that he got that in sparring during his training camp. And that's a huge red flag. Because if you're getting that injury just from your sparring partners, is that something that's a result of wear and tear from the wars you've been in, from the punches you've taken? And fortunately for Earl Spence, they picked this up early during the pre-fight physicals. Because imagine if he got in the ring with Manny Pacquiao and he was taking some punches. That could have turned from a potential serious injury into a real serious injury that could be life-changing. So shout out to him and the team for finding that early, and for him getting that surgery, getting it taken care of immediately. And you have to worry about his future. However, we went from preparing for a southpaw, just talking about Manny Pacquiao, to now preparing for an orthodox fighter. And yeah, you fought in orthodox fighters much more often. It's not like there's anything new for Manny. However, Ugas wasn't and still is not an ordinary fighter. I'm familiar with Dennis Ugas. Most people are not, but he is the WBA title holder. He got the belt after Manny Pacquiao was stripped of the title, and he fought he might have fought in an eliminator bout, and he eventually ended up winning the belt. He had a very good fight against Sean Porter as well, a fight that I thought that Ugas won. I'm a big Sean Porter fan, but I thought that Sean Porter lost that fight by 1 round to Dennis Ugas. I thought that he earned the fight. It was very surprising. They put Ugas on my radar. He's a very slick Cuban boxer who unconventionally does like to mix it up. A lot of Cuban boxers, they don't necessarily like to do that, but he likes to get in there and mix it up. Same Luis Ortiz at heavyweight is one of those guys as well, who's a little bit more unconventional, coming from that Cuban school of boxing, where even though he's defensively sound and very technically sound, he does like to get there, mix it up, and try to get you up out of there. So he has finesse, but he's about landing the big punch to end the fight. So the punch stats from this fight, and first and foremost, Dennis Ugas was able to get the unanimous decision over Manny Pacquiao, and the scores were 115 to 113 116 to 112, 116 to 112 in favor of Ugas. Now that would be 7-5, 8-4, and then 8-4 in favor of Udenis. So 2 judges had him winning by 2 rounds, and 1 judge had him winning by 1 round. And that's pretty much how I saw it. I had Ugas winning by 2 rounds myself. However, I thought it was a very spirited and highly competitive fight. And I thought that Ugas was able to win rounds 11 and 12, and that put him ahead for me. I thought that he definitely was able to apply pressure, especially in that 12th round, and take the win from me. That was the first time that in a long time, that I thought that Manny Pacquiao, not hands down lost, but definitively lost. The same way as I thought that Ugas beat Sean Porter. Not that he beat him down, but I thought that he earned the victory 7-5 against Sean Porter in the same way that I thought he just earned it against Manny Pacquiao. He went out and he wasn't as active, but he was more effective, landed more punches while throwing less. They both landed a lot of punches, but he threw almost half the amount of punches that Manny threw, but he landed at a higher clip and he made his punches count. So I thought that he earned the fight. I thought that Manny, he brought it, he put it on him, but he landed a lot of shots on the leather, on the gloves. And I thought Ugas did a great job of being defensively sound while still being able to open up and try to land shots when he was countering back. So I like that a lot. Now looking at the punch stats, before I go into that, Brian Campbell put out a tweet that I agree with wholeheartedly. Shout out to the judges for getting it right. Heck of a performance from Ugas. Completely agree with that. Now, the Compubox final stats. Manny Pacquiao threw 815 total punches to Ugas's 405 punches. He doubled his output. However, Ugas landed 151 punches to Manny's 130 punches. So he landed at a slightly higher clip, but he landed a slightly higher amount of punches, but at a much more accurate clip. So he landed 21 more punches, but of the total punches landed, he landed 37% of his punches compared to Manny landing 16% of those 800 that he threw. So Ugas landed 37% of the 405 that he threw, but Manny only landed 16% or half the percentage amount of his 815 punches that he threw. And Ugas landed a hell of a lot more body punches, 34-6. Ugas was definitely going to the body, mixing it up. I like that a lot. Jabs, pretty much even. Manny doubled the amount of jabs thrown, and Ugas landed about 8 more. So, I mean, it was a chess match. They were both landing jabs, scoring points. Power punches. Manny threw, again, double the amount, almost exactly double the amount of power punches, but Ugas landed 13 more power punches. So the tale of the tape was Manny was way more active. He was very aggressive. He was pushing the action, and he landed almost the same amount of punches, but Ugas was able to land more without throwing as much. He was very economical with it, and he was able to blunt the aggression of Manny Pacquiao in this fight. And that's why I thought he was able to earn it in a tough, well-fought win. You know, a hard day's work. I was very impressed with Ugas. Because people are going to come out and say, oh, Manny was old, he lost a step, this, that, and the third. Was he as good as he was in the Keith Thurman fight? No, he wasn't. However, a lot of guys would have folded with the amount of pressure that Manny put on Ugas. And Ugas had the experience. He's weathered the storm. He's been in big fights before. He's fought the likes of Sean Porter. I mean, Sean Porter is one of the top guys at the division, and he did great against him. They had a great fight, and I thought he won. And we had a battle against an absolute pit bull in Sean Porter, and you were able to show and prove. So he didn't get overwhelmed by the moment at all. He came out and did exactly what he had to do. There were rumors that he had an injury to the biceps potentially on his left arm. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I saw a video that, and they threw out a very interesting scenario where he could have had a partially torn bicep, but not in a spot that would have hindered him from effectively throwing that jab. And as soon as I saw him in warm-ups, he was throwing that jab. It looked good. I was like, okay, he'll be all right. He's not injured, and if he is, it's not to the extent that it's going to hamper his ability to throw that jab out. So I love what he did. Great job. Another tweet here. All Ugas did was textbook orthodox versus southpaw strategy. Double jab, straight right. He threw in uppercuts here and there, but he was disciplined enough to stick to the game plan. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what he did. Great fight. Great fight. Great fight. I don't know if there's going to be a rematch. I don't know what Manny Pacquiao is going to do moving forward. Maybe he retires. He's hinted at it. Maybe he doesn't. We'll see. We'll see. That's my thoughts on that fight. It was a great end to the summer, so to speak, and that's it for that fight. Now coming up, tomorrow there's the quote unquote big fight with Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. Look, my thoughts on this: is it going to be an entertaining event? Sure. Do I take it seriously? No. Do I think that Jake Paul is not a boxer? Also, no. I do think he's a boxer. However, he's just beginning. He's not a scrub. He's not somebody who just picked up the gloves, who's like an ex-basketball player or a YouTube sensation who's never laced him up and been in a ring. No. He's been practicing on a serious level for about 2-3 years now. Now, I'm not saying he's had elite competition or even great competition or good competition, honestly, but he's been in the ring, he's sparred, he has the fundamentals down to a certain extent. Now it's really about sharpening the tool set and really getting the experience against really good boxers, or even, C-level boxers. We all start off somewhere. But he's in the beginning stages of his boxing career. If it's something that he truly takes seriously, all the jokes and trolling put aside. Tyron Woodley, great hands, UFC legend. When it comes to boxing, I don't know any more about his pure boxing ability than I know about Jake Paul at this point, to be honest about you. And that's no slight to Tyron Woodley. I know he has hands, but when it comes to boxing, we don't know how he's going to fare in that world. It doesn't have to be Jake Paul. It could have been anybody else. I would have the same questions. Neither one of them has fought in a professional boxer. So in a 12-round bout, neither one of them has done that. So we've yet to know what they can really do in that boxing ring. So we're going to find out tomorrow. I mean, I'm not going to buy the fight. I guess if somebody is watching it, I'll go check it out with them, but I'm not buying it. Just off the strength of, there's no reason why Amanda Serrano should be on the undercard of this fight. If anything, Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul should be on the undercard of her fight. She's an actual boxer, professional boxer, and a damn good one at that. Good hands, great head movement, total package. Why is she on the undercard instead of headline? So that's one gripe that I have. But you guys can let me know what you think on that one. But that's just me personally. I think that's BS. But that's the other fight I don't know if that's going to be a co-main event or what have you, but that's the one that I'm actually really interested in, to be honest with you. Amanda Serrano, she's a problem. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with this fight. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to leave it there. Whenever there's more news coming up on boxing, I'll be sure to talk about that. And then I'll be keeping an eye on the 53-man roster for the Eagles, what the final cuts are going to be, and what this roster is going to look like shaping up going into week 1 of the NFL season. So then, thank you for your support, and talk to you later. Peace.